stop as well. They work on the same sort of line. Yeah. Because we're on like a counterweight system. So what helps us go up is also what takes us back down.
Okay. What year was this built?
It's turning 61 this year, so that would take it to 1964.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Yeah. Okay, 1964. Yeah. So it's, it turned 60 last year, which is pretty cool. Alright, it won't be too much longer. They must just be loading some people into the car. Have you been on the Skytram before or something similar?
One in Vancouver last year.
Okay, nice.
And then we were supposed to go on the bus to come to the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
The fire in Banff, so the rest of our trip got canceled.
Yeah, okay.
Were you operating here in August with the fire, or do you shut down?
After the fire, they shut down for the year. So March this year was the first time it opened back up since the
March
wildfires.
Yeah,
March 21st. Okay, we're going to be making our way down now. We'll slowly sort of creep out of the docking station and then we'll get back up to speed once we get out. Yeah, so this is the first season since the wildfires. Yeah. They had to replace the cables.
Oh yeah.
So the cables were damaged in the fires. So they were replaced, as well as the electrical cables on the ground. You would notice there's two lots of cables going down. One of them is burnt, damaged, and the other one is a new one, because they had to really rush. By the time they got back into town to be able to sort of get the power back up here, it was pretty close to when it started to snow, and they didn't want to be working on the mountain with it snowing in winter, so it was a real rush to get it done before winter fully took it. Yeah.
So how did they get the wires from down to top?
So for the cables here, what they did is the old ones were still on there, and they spliced it, so they joined the new cable onto the old one, and then they just ran it, and so that pulled the new cable up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, we were talking about that, my son and I, how they get the cables up and.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty crazy operation to sort of get it all done. The way they built this was they had to use a helicopter initially, but then once they got that cable in at the top, the Skytram actually built itself. So all the materials then got brought up through the car, and so the building was mainly built through bringing stuff up in the car. Yeah, it was just the initial was done to get the actual cables running, and then the rest was the car going up and down. But the cars are a little bit different, 60 odd years ago. So, yeah, there's some old pictures and it's like, well, okay. Not so much, it wasn't fully enclosed, it was kind of like a wood frame on the outside.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not sure if you guys could see Mount Robson.
Yes, I see it now.
Yeah, it's nice. So Mount Robson's directly through to the end of this valley. That's that all white peak in the background, a couple clouds around the side of it. And that's the tallest in the Canadian Rockies.
And that's in BC.
Yeah, so that mountain range is on the border of BC and Alberta. Yeah. I think on your way to Kamloops is kind of, you can see it.
Okay, yeah.
I think on that drive. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you just do that drive? You saw it?
Yeah. You couldn't I don't know if you could see it from the road, but when we were driving, we couldn't figure out which one it was.
Okay.
It looks so different when you're like up there.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. And it said, I think it says Mount Robson National Park.
Oh wow.
Mount Robson Preserve or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we still couldn't figure out which one it was.
There you go. How far? Like an hour and a half to get to Mount Robson, or?
Yeah, about that. I think it's like 75 kilometers or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably like an hour then. Okay, we're approaching the halfway mark. Once the other car passes us, that's the exact halfway point. So, right there.
Are you starting to get busier?
Yeah, we had that Easter weekend was pretty busy.
Was it?
Yeah, now it's this time of year it's like really dependent on tours. If there's
Yeah.
tours coming in, then we're busy. If it's kind of just like foot traffic, then a little less, but
Right.
definitely picking up. I think May long weekend is kind of like the start of the busy
yes.
period. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get into June and July. Yeah. Going to be a little bit of a stutter as we go past this tower here. But yeah, now still very much the shoulder season, which is why you can have a car where there's only like 4 of us in here. Whereas in like July, it's 25 basically every single time.
Oh, really?
So it's really nice to come this time of year because you still get the snow on top of the mountains,
Yeah.
and it's also quieter, and you get days like this where it's it's nice and warm. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
How did they actually put the fire out? Or did
Yeah, so they had, I know they were water bombing it, so with helicopters like just dropping massive, they had water cannons. In town was where sort of the firefighters were, as well as sprinkler systems on top of the buildings. There's not too much humans can actually do when it's a fire of this size, and with the weather conditions that they had, like super dry leading up to it, and then a really windy day. There's not a whole lot humans can do. It's kind of just pray for the wind to change. You'll notice that the fire line is here. It's where it kind of stopped. Yeah, so part of the reason for that is the wind changing and putting the fire back onto itself, and that really helps out when the fire is already burned through all the trees and it gets put back onto itself. There's less there to burn again, so
Right.
that helps kind of bring it down a little bit. But apparently there was still fires for like a month after the start date, but that was like very controlled. It wasn't like they were kind of letting it burn because it's part of the sort of environment. It needs to be burnt. So having like a little controlled fire is a good thing. Some of the trees here need fires to germinate. Their pine cones will stay shut, and then when the temperature for a fire comes through, they can actually open up and release their seeds. So it is part of the natural environment, and as bad as it looks, it needs to happen, and it's going to provide a lot of regrowth and a lot of nutrients in that soil for life to really thrive afterwards. It is bad initially when you look at it short term, but in the long term, it's positive. So.